Hi guys, a few days ago I noticed that one of our adult Altum angels has bloating, so she has this abdominal swelling and her belly is swollen from both sides. She was in our display tank, so I treated the whole display tank with epsom salt, but it didn't help. So now I moved her to this quarantine tank and I'm gonna treat her one more time with epsom salt. So this time I'm going to increase the dosage. This is something that I couldn't do in our display tank. Also, I'm going to raise the temperature to 32 degrees Celsius. Also, I couldn't do that in our display tank because we have their pothos plants and I don't think they would survive such an increase in temperature. So that's why I moved her to a separate quarantine tank. You would probably notice that her swelling, her bloating is not that serious yet, but with Altum angels it's always important to treat these issues as soon as possible until it is too late. Unfortunately, well, in my experience, Altum angels are really susceptible to all sorts of intestinal diseases, intestinal worms, parasites, all sorts of internal parasites, bloating as well. I've had a case of bloating in a wild Altum before and I treated it with epsom salts. I dewormed the fish, I treated it for internal parasites. Unfortunately nothing has helped and I lost the fish. So I'm hoping that this case will be successful, although you never know. Again, in my experience, Altum angels seem to be less receptive to treatment with epsom salt, unlike discus, because with discus you usually do one treatment with epsom salt and it usually solves the bloating issue. In case of Altum angels, they are not as receptive to epsom salt as discus, so you probably have to do it several times and you might have to increase the dose a bit in order for it to work, but again, there's no guarantee that it is going to work. I don't think it's intestinal worms or flagellates or something like that, because I deworm my display tank literally every month just as a prophylactic measure, so I don't think that is the issue with worming. So I will try to solve this with epsom salts and we'll see what's going to happen. So for those of you who don't know what this is basically epsom salt for human consumption. Well, you can also buy epsom salt specifically for aquarium fish, but basically that's the same thing, but probably 2 or 3 times more expensive. So you can just use epsom salt for human consumption, and it's not really a salt as such, although it does look like a salt. Basically it functions as a laxative for fish, so it allows them to release everything that they have in their bellies, to remove all the blockages. Normally for discus and for other fish I would use 1 tablespoon for 40 gallons. This is a 60-liter tank and it would have been reasonable to use half a tablespoon, even less than half a tablespoon, but I will use half tablespoon, which is kind of an increased dose, I would say. So the way I would normally treat fish with epsom salt is I would get some water in some container. In this case I'm just using this empty jar from fish food. I would get some fish tank water, just about half of the container. I would add epsom salt in here. I would not recommend you to just adding epsom salt straight into your fish tank because it will just go down to the bottom and it's not going to dissolve properly. So I would shake it. So the point here is to make sure that it's completely dissolved, so there is no crystals in the water or on the bottom, and it happens usually really fast. I will add it usually somewhere closer to the air stone to make sure that it's spread around the tank. Epsom salt is not exactly a chemical, so it's not going to disappear. It's not going to disappear from the water like, for example, deworming medicines. It's similar to salt in terms of it's staying in the water until you remove it physically, so you need to remove it with a water change. That's the only way to remove Epsom salt. It's not going to disappear by itself. So usually I will wait for a couple of days to see if it works. After that I will do a massive water change. I will consider treating her for internal parasites. It's also quite important to raise the temperature, because in higher temperatures fish will have higher metabolism, and treatment will hopefully work faster. You won't be able to raise temperatures too much with many different species of aquarium fish, but you can do that with discus and with Altum angels. So you can easily raise temperature to about 32 and possibly 33 degrees Celsius. This is what I'm going to do right now, but you definitely need to have a source of aeration. You need to have air stone and possibly some other form of filtration. Otherwise your water will be depleted of oxygen. So I will keep you updated on this project, and fingers crossed she's gonna recover. Sadly, no treatment has helped. It's been almost a week after we put her in this tank, and I treated her with Epsom salt, which did not help. I also treated her for internal parasites, and it did not help as well. She is still bloated, and now she's dead. She is about 1.5 years old, and I actually raised her from a tiny juvenile. I think that's a female. There's no signs of illness except for this bloated belly in here. And it's probably not that noticeable if you just look that way. It's bloated, but it's not overly bloated, but it was enough. So she is 12 centimeters long, which is 5 inches, and in terms of her height, over 20 centimeters, which is about 9 inches.